that I'll be covering is Chelsea against Arsenal. Probably the biggest game of the weekend, London derby, saving the best until last. Chelsea will face a side called Noah midweek in the Conference League, and you would imagine that they play their sort of second string 11 to give the main starters enough prep time. They were able to salvage a draw against Man United in the league last time out, as Caicedo scored a tidy volley after Robert Sanchez conceded a penalty. For Arsenal, they've slipped into fifth, another team in a sort of poor run of form. Winners in their last 3 games. They lost 1-0 to Newcastle last time out, and I think it was fully deserved. They failed to create sort of any memorable chances. Even midweek, they lost 1-0 to Inter Milan, so they find themselves in a real rut of form right now. Not ideal for them. And this is a big game. This is a very, very big game for them, I would say. Winless in 4 would be sort of catastrophic for their title hopes. And it is a very, very big game. Away at Stamford Bridge, not an easy matchup, but they'll be desperate for sort of 3 points. Moving on to the injury report, we have a small injury list for Chelsea, but it does contain Cole Palmer, which is notable. He seemed to pick up a knock at the weekend. However, I would imagine he starts. I think if there is even a chance he can play, he will play, just because of how important he is under Enzo Maresca. So we likely see a sort of familiar Chelsea 11. It's that sort of team that plays week in, week out in the Premier League. For Arsenal, they had Gabriel return in the last game, so they will only be without sort of Odegaard and Calafiori from their sort of first choice 11. Sterling will notably not feature, as he is unable to face his parent club, so we could see more minutes for Saka, or at least a safer minutes floor. Again, more on that later. I think this is a banana skin fixture. I mentioned this a lot last week, that there was a lot of banana skin fixtures or games difficult to predict, but overall we navigated them well enough. And we did that by sort of targeting value singles and angles that were correlated. So I think we're going to try and do something similar for this game again. The strategy being sort of keep it light, stick to plus money single bets. Kind of going against that a bit with the first selection, but it's for Saliba to make 2 or more tackles, which has been a familiar angle over the last few weeks. I just think it's been such a good play, and we get, again, a really good price of 1.9 with 365 for this to occur. Whenever Arsenal play a sort of front-footed team in which defensively they will be involved, I just think Saliba to make 2 or more tackles is just an automatic play. It's landed in 9 out of 14 games this season. If we look into those losses, one was against Bournemouth, where he was sent off after 30 minutes with 1 tackle. One was against Southampton, where he blanked, Shakhtar, where he blanked, and Preston. So those 3 games, Arsenal were obviously very, very dominant. If we see, if we sort of watch those games, we'll see Saliba getting into very, very few ground duels. So it's no surprise he made no tackles in those games. The other failure was surprisingly against Inter Milan in the recent game. Didn't back him to make tackles because I was sort of unfamiliar with how Inter Milan would approach the game. But he made 1 tackle, he was dribbled past once, and he made 2 fouls. So the duels were there, which is encouraging. I think the only thing is he was very inefficient, and that isn't usually the case with Saliba. You very rarely see him sort of dribbled past. He's very strong in his duels. He's sort of more likely to make a tackle than a foul, I would say. So I'm going to just sort of write that one off as an anomaly game. For the game against Chelsea, I think it's a great matchup. We should see him draw duels with Nicholas Jackson, who sees quite a lot of the ball for Chelsea. So again, 1.9 to make 2 more tackles, given that it's landed in 9 out of 14 games this season, looks a cracking price once again. Second potential angle is one that I played last season in both head-to-head games, and it's for Cucurella and Saka to make 1 foul each and draw 1 foul each. So essentially for Saka to foul Cucurella and for Cucurella to foul Saka. We get the main line, 1 each, priced at 2.6 with Paddy, and 2 each at 16.2, 15 to 1 with Paddy. And notably, this landed in both games last season between these two, so they are sort of familiar foes. They enjoy the matchup against each other, and they have a bit of history. Extending the sample season past last season, they've actually faced each other in the 22-23 season. They faced each other once in that game, and again the 2+ landed. So the question really is, will Cucurella start? And at the moment, I'm sort of leaning towards no, because we've typically seen sort of Reece James and Malo Gusto be the fullbacks for Chelsea, with Cucurella sort of demoted to that sort of second string starting 11 that starts in European competitions. But we did see in the last game a bit of a change from Maresca. So we saw Reece James actually start on the left, Malo Gusto start on the right, and Gusto was substituted at half-time for Cucurella, who then went over to the left. So I think how Chelsea line up today against Noah will reveal everything. But here are the sort of scenarios that we have. I think if we get Gusto starting today against Noah, it will be Cucurella and Reece James as the fullbacks, in which case it will be Cucurella against Saka, which is ideal, which means we can sort of back this bet. However, if we see Cucurella start, then it means we'll likely see, it's difficult to say actually, but probably Gusto on the left, Reece James on the right, in which case we will be sort of more intrigued in backing Gusto tackles than Gusto fouls, but we'll have to wait for today. Again, this game is quite far away. It's on Sunday, so we're not really looking to take any bets right away. We're not in any sort of rush. So what I will be doing is keeping these just as leans for now. And once we get a bit more information on how both teams might line up, we will take bets. So I will be posting a Twitter thread on Saturday. So again, make sure you follow me there. For the sort of third potential angle would be for Gabriel to have a shot. I haven't taken him too much this season. Reason being, I don't typically like to back centre-backs to have a shot whenever the sort of only scenario we're waiting for is a set piece. I think it's just not really ideal. But for this game, there's sort of a bit more reasoning behind it. The Fofana and Gusto foul, I like the Fofana foul shout. I think he draws a good matchup against Havertz, but Gusto will have to wait for. I think there's quite a lot of uncertainty around where Gusto starts. If he starts at left back, fantastic value. If he starts at right back, not as good. But I don't think it's even certain that he does start. Just based on the fact that he was substituted at half-time in the last league game against Man United. So I would say wait for a bit more information, wait for the game today, see how Chelsea line up, and hopefully we'll have a bit more information based on that. Bruno Guimaraes foul involvements evens. Yeah, really like that price, Aaron. Thanks for that. Again, I checked these prices last night. Obviously on Wednesday, you're not seeing too many markets released. Haven't checked today, but that is a really nice price. I can see him even getting fouled 4 times. And again, he draws a good matchup to make fouls against Yates, so that's one to really keep an eye on. I would have thought 5 would be evens. But yeah, thank you for that, and I'll keep an eye on that market. Going back to Arsenal, the final sort of selection I have for this game is for Gabriel to register a shot. As I mentioned, not too big of a fan of backing centre-backs to have a shot whenever they only are reliant on set pieces. But Gabriel is a bit different, especially for this game. Obviously, he is the sort of main target from set pieces for Arsenal. He's registered a shot in 8 out of 14 games this season, and he's priced at 1.61 with Bet365. So just based on that, it sort of looks a fair price. But I think Arsenal struggle to create chances from open play in this game. They have done that just generally this season. They haven't been an exactly front-footed or progressive side. They haven't been particularly sort of entertaining to watch. And in games like this, where they do struggle to create chances from open play, they are extremely reliant on set pieces. And that's where Gabriel comes into play. If we look into the game against Newcastle, they only fashioned one shot on target in that entire game, and that was despite losing from the 15th minute. So they had a positive game state, yet still couldn't really manage to create anything to worry Nick Pope. And of the chances they did create, they were almost all from set pieces or sort of crosses. Gabriel did not manage a shot in that game, but it was Mikel Merino who did. He had the shot on target and he had 2 shots from set pieces. Against Inter Milan, again, Arsenal very, very reliant on set pieces, and Gabriel had 3 shots in total. So, in this game against Chelsea, I think in these sort of derby games, we generally see teams quite evenly matched, especially when you have the home team who have a bit more to prove, I would say, being the underdogs. I do think Arsenal struggle. The one sort of factor to consider as an additional is the fact that Declan Rice is out of this game, or has been confirmed to be out by Arteta. Is that a big issue? Given that he's a set-piece taker, I would say probably not. I think Arsenal have enough players who can contribute in that regard, with the likes of Saka, potentially Zinchenko if he starts, Martinelli. I think they have enough players that can sort of put an accurate cross in, and if Gabriel is to be the target, 1.61 I think is a nice price. Obviously too short to back as a single, so you'll have to get creative, potentially adding sort of over 3.5 corners for Arsenal, just to try and boost that above evens. But as I say, for these sort of games where they're harder to predict, where game state might dictate how the game is played out, and obviously with that being hard to predict pre-match, you sort of want to lean towards sort of plus money, odds against angles, and focus on reducing stakes, at least in my opinion anyway. So that's 3 potential early angles for this game. As I say, I'll be taking bets much closer to kickoff, and I'll be finalising those over on Twitter. That is all the games to cover for this weekend. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for your questions. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you for your support. Again, make sure you follow me over on Twitter if you're not already. All of my sort of bets will be posted on there. I'll also be posting sort of in-depth write-ups for a few of these games this weekend. And all my staking plans will be posted on Telegram. So again, make sure you're in that channel. Make sure you follow me on Twitter. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for supporting the stream.